I just want to preface this video by saying I made this video back in 2020 for one of my other channels, and since this is a dedicated gaming channel, I thought a remastered version of this video belonged here. I feel like everything I bring up in this video still correlates to today, so without further ado, let's get into this video. NFL Street 2 came out on December 22nd, 2004, and forever changed the sports gaming sphere. Oddly enough, NFL Street, the original version, came out the same exact year as NFL Street 2. Yeah, you heard that correctly. NFL Street came out on January 13th, 2004, and not even a full year later, we got the second game. Even for games with yearly release cycles, this is kind of unheard of, and it definitely was back in 2004 also. Either way, NFL Street 2 perfected the street football formula in my opinion. This is probably my favorite football game ever created. There are a few Maddens that get close to this game, but this game just has so much replayability and it has so much fun packed into the game, and it still holds up 16 years later. And for those who care about this type of stuff, this game was released on every major system that was out at the time. Street 2 was released on PS2, OG Xbox, GameCube, and a PSP version was released in March of 05. You could argue that this game and NBA Street Volume 2 was the peak of EA Big and EA Sports as a whole, because we can't forget that Madden 04 and Madden 05 were out at the same time. Without further ado, let us get into the meat and potatoes of this video and talk about the gameplay, game modes, graphics, soundtrack, and the overall awesomeness of this game. Even in 2020, the gameplay of this game still feels very slick and fun. It is honestly amazing that this game is 16 years old. The controls and overall feel of this game still feel very modern. I cannot even imagine how awesome a Street game would be on the PlayStation 5 or the new Xbox. I guess we all can just dream a little bit, but man, those adaptive triggers and haptic feedback on that PS5 controller with the Street game, oh my goodness, that'd be so much fun. The wall jumping, crazy throws, aggressive tackling, all make for such a fun experience, and it really, truly never gets old when you're playing NFL Street 2. Yes, you can see some animations that get repeated, but it never feels stale because there are so many showboating movements, animations, and just overall crazy things that you can do that you never really repeat the same thing if you don't want to repeat the same thing. This game doesn't just have a game breaker though, it introduced Game Breaker 2, which is just bonkers. It's pretty much God mode. Game Breaker 2 pretty much means you're scoring no matter what. Whether you activated it on offense or activated it on defense, you're scoring a touchdown in one way or another. The only difficult thing about the Game Breaker 2, and I'm saying this in air quotes right now, is that it takes 100,000 style points, which means you have to be actively doing style moves while playing, which really isn't a huge deal, but you have to be kind of paying attention to that to make sure you hit those certain goals to even get to the Game Breaker 2. The biggest thing that can get annoying in this game is the turbo boost, which makes your player run quicker, obviously, but it runs out pretty quick. It really isn't a huge deal because it does regenerate fairly fast, but it still can get bothersome at times when you're trying to outrun someone or catch someone and it just depletes and you're just and you go back to being super slow. It's a little annoying at times, not gonna lie. But probably my favorite thing about this game is all the awesome active and legend players that are in this game. You have legends like Bo Jackson, Jack Lambert, and Randall Cunningham, along with players who were active at the time but are also all-time legends nowadays, like Jerry Rice, Emmitt Smith, LaDainian Tomlinson, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, and so many more, which is honestly pretty cool to see that this game is that old now, that active players at the time are looked back as legends today. So that's a pretty cool thing to think about, honestly. You can play as set teams, but that is honestly not the way to play this game. You need to pick your roster like you're back on the schoolyard, and that provides for the most enjoyable experience. Back in the day when I would play this game with my friends or even my dad, it was all about getting Mike Vick or Donovan McNabb because they were the two best running quarterbacks in the game and they made such a big difference. And that's not taking into account Randall Cunningham because you had to have him unlocked, and sometimes I didn't. And you know how old memory cards would work sometimes. Some would work, some not. But no matter what, Mike Vick and McNabb were in the game and they just were such difference makers while you were playing, because being able to run, as you know, is just a huge advantage in this game. You also have to decide what you want to prioritize. Do you want a middle linebacker playing O-line, or do you want an O-line player playing defense somewhere? That type of thinking and strategy just add another awesome layer of depth to this game. Street 2 also does not have field goals or extra points. You either have to go for one or two every time you score a touchdown, which makes your strategy a bit more complex sometimes. Still, no matter how you approach any particular game of Street 2, you're going to have fun. From being able to pick your team, to doing style moves, to trying to get a Game Breaker 2, to not kicking field goals, this game still has some of the best gameplay for a football game that you can play today. Street 2 has a lot of different game modes to play around with once you get a bit bored with the pickup game feature. The Own the City mode is pretty much a career mode that the game offers. I can't say I played this mode too much as a kid, but it is fairly in-depth for this game, and it can provide hours of entertainment. In this mode, you create a character, and you have to win a few games in Bay City, and your squad then advances to play Exhibit and his NFL pals. Yeah, remember Exhibit? Pimp my ride, baby. And if you beat them, you go to the tournament and prove your worth. Once you beat Exhibit and his team, you actually can import your creative player over to Madden 06, which is honestly a pretty cool, neat little feature. NFL Challenge mode is another staple of Street games. In this mode, you have to build up a team and win a tournament to face off with some NFL legends. If you win these games against the legends, you get the players. It's that simple. This is a fairly fun idea, even though it is very similar to the Own the City mode. Also, you can just use some cheat codes and unlock all the legends right when you start playing the game, which is a whole lot easier. The Street Events mode is probably my favorite mode, right behind the pickup games. They all have their pros and cons, but Open Field Showdown is by far the funnest event you can play in this mode. It is a 1v1 match, and all you're trying to do is score a touchdown. And on the flip side, all you're trying to do is stop the rusher from scoring. This mode is fun enough against the computer, like it's fine, but it is tremendous against friends. There is nothing like going 1v1 against a buddy, and you're trying to wall jump over him to score the winning touchdown in a silly mode, and it's just nothing but fun and chaos, and it honestly provides for such a fun experience, and it just has so much replayability, even though it is just so simple. It's hard to understand what I'm talking about if you've never experienced this game before, because like I said, it's very simple, but it's just so fun. I have a lot of fond memories of this mode too, and it provided me with a lot of entertainment over the years. No matter what mode you spend the most time with in Street 2, you will not be disappointed, believe me. The overall game is just that good. I think it's time for the graphics portion of this video. For a game that came out in 2004, this game doesn't look horrible. All the players are a bit unrealistic anyways, so I think it helps the game as it has aged. The player models look good enough. You can make out who is who, usually without any issues. The jerseys and clothes that the players wear don't look too bad either, but most of the clothes just really date this game, which is not a bad thing. It is a bit of a nostalgia trip at this point, which is all right in my book. Even the 10 fields that you can play on in this game, those being the Backlot, Sportsplex, the Tracks, the Aqueduct, the Dig, 2nd Street Station, the Cage, the Alley, Royal Park, and Imperial Tower, all look really good for a PS2 era game. Unfortunately, there are a couple of stadiums that are really dark and they're hard to see what's going on. It isn't because of modern TVs either. They were even dark and hard to see back in 2004 on a CRT TV. It's still not a big deal. I just wouldn't recommend to frequent some of those stadiums. Overall, the graphics of this game hold up really well for being from 2004, and I have no real complaints about them at all. Before we wrap up this Street 2 discussion, we have to talk about the absolutely epic soundtrack for this game. I wish I could play the songs for you, but we all know YouTube doesn't care for that all too much. Either way, this game has an iconic soundtrack in my book. It just sets the tone for this game so well. The game has a great mix of rap and alternative rock, which I would argue were the two most popular genres back in 2004. If you've never heard the soundtrack for this game, you're truly missing out. It is seriously one of the best, and it rivals MVP 05 and NBA Street Volume 2 soundtrack. Yes, it is truly that good. It will just forever have a sentimental place in my heart because how much I played this game while I was growing up. Fun fact, NFL Street 2 was actually the first game I ever owned after I got a PS2. So yeah, you can say I've played this game a lot, and I've always loved every second of it. To finally wrap up this whole video, there is no doubt in my mind that NFL Street 2 is still good in 2020. It still holds up tremendously, and I would love to see a remaster of this game, or even have this series revisited and have a Street 4. That's probably never going to happen, let's be honest, but I'm just happy we have this amazing game that continues to entertain all these years later. With all this said, what are your thoughts on NFL Street 2? Do you still think this game holds up in 2020? Let me know down below in the comment section, and while you're down there, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, that'd be greatly appreciated. Thanks for watching.
Touchdown! Take it! Take it!